Welcome to today's stream, which is going to be about hiring in C++ and what Meeting C++ offers about this. And we're mostly going to talk about the job fair, which is in November. At the end of November, we have the next job fair on 29th, 30th. So let me get to my slides. And so just before we get started, why Meeting C++, just want to point that out at the beginning. I do have a reach into the community, which is huge. And with now over 26,500 followers on LinkedIn, Twitter has like 28,000, and there's Facebook, which, still some people there. And that's an untapped possibility for companies to, to access as candidates and as to be visible in the community. And so if your HR department is asking why Meeting C++, that's one of the reasons, visibility. And I reached a lot of folks, with all those folks which follow Meeting C++, of course, are followed. They made the decision to follow for the C++ content, so they are interested in C++. And then from the other side, when I hear from the HR departments and companies and people which have to do with hiring in C++, I always hear that C++ devs are hard to find. And so, I've been hearing it for years, literally. And makes you wonder why. First, I think that everyone is looking is one of the problems or one of the reasons, because it's not hard to find a C++ job as a dev when everyone is looking, right? And then there is just the whole mechanism how recruiting works in our time, that everyone gets spammed even if you're not looking, and it alienates the rest of us and makes recruiters not being very popular within our community. And I think generally within the tech community itself. That's not specific to C++, because they always claim to have looked at your profile and you are the perfect candidate. And in this example, like in my profile, it's literally standing that I'm not looking for jobs in German. So no, they didn't. And I know that on LinkedIn, some people put like an emoticon or some smiley into their name to know if that person typed the name or just was copy pasted from some script. And yes, I also got misgendered this year from some that wasn't automated, but yeah, it's still happening to women way more, especially if there's automated messages, and those automated messages often don't really look on gender. Another example of what happened to me a few years ago is like when you change your project status or when you change your status or add new things to your profile, search agents are triggered and certain recruiters are notified that you added projects on looking to your profile. And in reality, it was not looking for projects. So I got some offers after that, which kind of annoyed me. And I wondered how this is in the community. So I did a Twitter survey last year. And this is about a year ago, if people that are not looking for a job still have been, contacted by recruiters, and how many recruiters was in the last 3 months. And this is the results. So most people have not been, but then the majority of people have been in the survey. I did this survey in spring in this year. And same question, same but different results. In spring, it was way more people that are being contacted, and by way more recruiters also. So this is a persistent problem now for years. And of course, if you ask on LinkedIn, it's even more persistent. And the trend from Twitter already known has been, not so new, right? And on LinkedIn also carried forward. And I guess none of that is surprising to folks which have been in the tech world for some time, right? So when I started 2 years ago, my online user group, I thought maybe we should try a different approach. And so came the job fair to basically use the reach I have on the community and give companies who are willing to be at that event access to this reach, and give people who are looking for a job the opportunity to come by, say hi, go to a table, and talk to the recruiters or tech people from that company and get a feeling. And that way it's kind of mutual, right? And in this year, we have had 4 editions already, and we have a fifth one. We had an unplanned edition in June because some companies missed the May edition and they wanted to have a summer edition. And the current one I already mentioned, this month in the end, 29th, 30th November, we will have the last job fair in this year. And yeah, so plans for next year, but especially also for the next edition. I want to enhance the fair events with starting with a live stream where employers can introduce themselves with a short, overview or something, what they want to say, like 5 minutes per employer. Or depends, on the time and the number of employers we have at the event. That also serves the purpose of getting a bigger audience to the event, and also being able that I can introduce the event platform to the audience, because the ideal thing is that you're going to the event to find a job. So there's, from the job searching audience, very, very few people which are recurrent and which already knew the concept. So I should add something to introduce people. And I do want to go also more into the direction of employer branding. So coming to the job fair, of course, is part of that. But if you if an employer wants to have their own live stream on LinkedIn or Facebook, that will be possible by next year. Also should mention the sponsorship of the user group meeting, which is possible. And there's, of course, other ideas which I have, or maybe you as a company have, to present yourself on Meeting C++. I'm open to those. And this brings me to the CV sharing form. This is the other component which is important to the event. This CV sharing form captures the attendees which are coming to the event partly, but especially it captures the folks which are not able to come. And it's always online. And if you're sponsored the job fair, if you're there as a full member in the job fair, you are being listed on this form for 6 months from the time of your order. And so this form gives a light candidate profile on the first page. This is letting the candidate choose where they're coming from, which is like continent. It's very abstract, but the next page will lets them choose the country, choose their relocation and remote options, their C++ skills, which is C++ standards, frameworks, build technologies, etc. Field of work, where they have worked in which fields, kind of explanatory, and years of experience. And this also gives me, on the other hand, an aggregate from all the candidates, right? Should quickly go back to the slide and say, on the next page of this form, the candidate then will choose the companies they want to share their CVs with and upload their CV but we'll get to that. So this is an aggregate which gives me then also feedback from this year. It's a bit of a chicken egg problem. If I do not have companies from a country, I have less candidates from that country usually. One big exception is India. We always have a lot of interest from Asia in general, because you can see that Pakistan, this data is from last year, the aggregate, and it looks similar for most events this year. And then there is always like some, countries which pop up at one event, which think at the last event in October, we had the first submission from Japan. And we have sometimes submissions from Africa, which are also kind of, a lot of countries in Africa, and not a lot of developers we reach in there. And so this is a markup of the countries where we have submissions from. It's fairly international, but it has a strong focus on Asia and Europe. This is kind of what the skills looked like last year. C++ 11, 14, Linux, object orientation, modern C++, and C++ 17 are usually among the group which are in the overall population the most known things. And then there's other things like, which are also important, but not everybody knows them, or is like putting that on their selection. There's like Boost. CMake got a lot more popular this year, as we actually probably will see in a minute. Chosen fields of works, no big surprise there. The desktop is very popular. I added a few in this year so that other is not as high as it was last year. And then there's also, this is like, has a big influence on the companies. If we have a lot of companies from finance, we have more finance. Gaming companies, we had King last time, so gaming is up in this year through that. Years of experience. We always have a lot of candidates which are starting out, which are finding their first, second, or third job in the industry. And then we have folks which are still on their second or third job or first job, but are like over 10 years in the industry. And it's kind of split in half, if you kind of see that. Usually a bit more like 60-40 maybe to the folks which have not stuck around in 10 years for a decade in our industry. And this creates a light candidate profile for you as a company, right? Something to look at, something companies may filter for, like if international candidates are not interesting to you, that is an option to just say we are North America, we only want to see North American candidates, or that's up to you. The next step for the candidate, which I also mentioned, is select the companies to share with, upload the CV resume, and add a general cover letter. Well, not everybody does it, but it's like kind of optional. And this is some numbers on the candidates itself. With on the right is the last event with 66 submissions through the form. And so, we kind of keep it equal over 50. And then we have the next two is a prior quarter and second quarter in this year, where we had two events, and they kind of start cannibalizing each other for candidates because they're like back to back, like May, June, and so that's why the numbers are down in that field. And then we see the first event this year, March, is always very popular with companies because it's new in the year, and folks are looking for jobs, and companies are offering jobs. And so this is kind of how the setup has been over the years. And the other high point is the September event from last year. And as I already said, like the mix of companies and how many companies are attending is always a big influence on of the audience showing up, right? Here we see the first event from this year versus the overall aggregate of last year. And we see that C++ 17 this year has become more popular, and CMake has become more popular than it was in the prior year. I think CMake wasn't in all the events available as an option. I've added a lot of options in the last year, but this year I did not add as many because most are covered. Which brings me to the event itself. Okay, so the event offers sponsored and free tables. Sponsored tables offer you most what I talked about. You are being listed on the website in the CV sharing form for 6 months on the website, which is with the logo and the listing on the job fair page itself. And of course, your logo also then will be in the job section for 6 months. And I will give you some space to introduce your company in the live stream. You have access to the recruiting tooling, which we'll talk later about. And it enables me to advertise the event, right? If I have logos to show to people and say, hey, this is this company, do you know them? Makes people more interested in the event in my network. And of course, I'm always happy to hear feedback from those companies that actually, sponsored the event and made this possible to work on this. And this has, driven a lot of the tooling that you see now in the past. I want to give companies also a chance to get used to this. So there are free tables. They are below the sponsored tables in the event, so they get less traffic and they have less visibility. Therefore, getting for a feel for the event format. They're limited to 2 visits, and they're smaller table over, if you have an 8-person table for the sponsors normally, or 4-sponsor table, depends on how many sponsors we have, then your table will be smaller and you're listed below. I quickly also want to answer what the table is. This is always being a very popular question. Because it's virtual, right? How can a table exist? So this is like a lounge, UI, where you can see like the tables and couches of various things. And we can add your logo to this table. The table has seats, and as soon as 2 people sit on the same table, the view you see here will disappear and you will go in a meeting mode and you will be in a video conference with that person. You will be able to share slides, etc. Everything that you kind of used from a video conference will work in this environment. These meetings start when a second person has joined your table, and they're limited by who below to 1 hour. So that hour ends, then you should rejoin your table. And as a candidate, that is also kind of a mechanism to redistribute candidates, right? Not to have them sitting at one employer all the time because they like their conversation, but maybe then they get reminded that they should go to some other employer. And yeah, everyone is able to join a table even if this meeting is going on, which you can see. You can see kind of this smallish gibberish above the tables. That's the time which is left for the meeting. That's unfortunately something which I cannot turn off, so it's just what we have to live with. And this is a table. This is how the event works for 3 hours. And I already mentioned the recruiting tooling, which I've implemented on my website. If you go into recruiting and you register for the event, you will see those graphs which are specifically about the people which submitted to you. And as an event can have many people submit to you, I've offer kind of a tooling to give you access to it. I should mention that every candidate that submits to you and selects you as a company, you also get mailed as the CV. And a lot of companies prefer that. They are like, oh, okay, and then they have their own tooling. And I just built this to give you the graphs and to give you an overview on what has been submitted. There's also a search and a text search where you can find like candidates that selected cute. Like we have really like 40 to 50 candidates submitting to you as a company sometimes. And I want people to be able to search for certain positions if they know this position needs cute, or they have another submission for a position which needs an embedded job, stuff like that. They kind of find the candidates from your pool at Meeting C++ that fits that position you have currently. And also for smaller companies, that's not as useful, but for bigger companies, this is a very useful thing. And as I mentioned, the job fair is a long-time project. It needs always the employer support. And if you sign up early, it helps me a lot with distributing the knowledge about the event, who is there, and helps me with advertising in the community itself. And with that, so if you want to give the CV upload form as if you're a candidate, then you can already right now submit to 5 companies. through CV upload meetingcpp.com, as these are companies which are listed from the last event, or already for the event in November. Let me quickly go over the submission model. Candidates come to the submission form, fill out their profile, this selects employers, which then, create an application state. Maybe they also, go that over the filtered search, and then this is kind of, interesting to the candidates again. The submission form is gathering the skills, the field of work, the region, which is continents, and later in the form also countries, years of experience, and on the first two and the years of experience, companies can filter, and also on the region. So for the community, I hope this will improve hiring. This will improve the experience to find jobs, and I hope to be able to, include employers in this community in a better way, and offering like free online events on a paid platform, because Rubido is not free, and it enables my work as I do with C++, building a community for C++ and a platform. And of course, I'm looking for employers to join us. So someone of you already wrote me a message or sent me a network invite over LinkedIn. I'll be going through those in a minute. If you have any questions, I think, yes, so questions, you can post them to the chat and I might be able to react to them now. You find the job fair under jobfair.meetingcpp.com. And also, I'm happy to, have all your emails. If you have emails, send me your email, and questions per email. That's also welcome. Thank you for listening.